Hey everybody, I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. We are with Lori Crete, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about podcasts. So first, Lori, let's talk a little bit about your background and how long you've been an ASCP member for.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for having me today. Really excited to be on the other end of the interview. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm actually a 17-year licensed esthetician, and I still work in the treatment room every single week. People go, why? Why when you have all this other stuff going on? It's because I find joy in being in the treatment room. I am, I was a spa owner for 12 years in Los Angeles. Recently, I've sold the spa and I'm starting something new. I'm also an industry consultant coach, and I have an online platform called the Beauty Biz Club, which is really just a learning portal to help estheticians who are in need of interaction, community, and knowledge so they can really excel in this career. I also guess I should mention that I am the host of a top-rated iTunes podcast on iTunes called The Beauty Biz Show.
Which we love!
Thank you, thank you.
So what I wanted to know, so your podcast was actually the first podcast I have ever listened to. Everybody was like, it's about time you started listening to podcasts. So what made you first decide that you wanted to do a podcast?
I think I'm a Virgo, and people laugh when I talk about this, but we become workaholics. Mm-hmm. And for so long, I just had my nose in the treatment room or a business book or out there educating that my business coach said to me, why don't you find a passion project that is just not, it's something that's not about sticking your nose into business and hustling. And I thought, well, what do I like to do? First of all, my whole life, I've been told I ask too many questions. I'm a very curious person. So this podcast is really a nice way for me to, ask questions. And also as an industry practitioner, I was so sick of being sold to. I felt like any time that I wanted to gain knowledge surrounding a specific topic, I had to sit in a classroom that was very brand specific and deal with the sales process. And I was just tired of that. And then also, I think this is an area, our industry, the beauty industry, that's not always taken seriously as a profession. And I know so many amazing professionals in this industry. I thought, why don't I give them a chance to share how they started their business and expose their brand in a way that doesn't feel pushy or salesy. And I do this hopefully, mostly to inspire others and let them know anything's possible in this industry. There's a massive amount of abundance available to us.
Wow, nice.
Very good.
And now what was setting up the podcast like? I mean, because I assume that it takes a lot of equipment or the right software. And so what is it that you had to get together to get your podcast up off the ground?
Yeah, like even sharing kind of the specifics on like software that you recommend if there's something like that, or
yeah.
Well, let me tell you, I'm a firm believer in delegating where you are not strong, and I am not a techie girl. So I really invested heavily to get the podcast started. It actually was about a $3,000 investment because I went out and I found the best producer and I paid for the best artwork to be made. I just wanted to do it right, and I knew that I would never be able to have a professional show if I tried to do it myself, because it took me about 15 minutes to log into this platform today. I'm going to be honest with you. Stuff is not my genius work. So I just went out there and I did it right. I got a producer, somebody who will put it on my blog and get me the right type of exposure. And we can talk about that, what that means in a minute. But I think if you wanted to do a podcast and you are a techie person, you could record on Zoom, you could use GarageBand, you could certainly, get your exposure through your own blog or through something as simple as YouTube. The one thing that I will say that has helped me and saved my butt is my Yeti microphone. It's easy to use, your earphones, which you have to put in so it doesn't give you the I don't know what it's called. I guess the
feedback?
Yeah, the feedback, so you're not echoey. That Yeti microphone and plugging your earphones right into the microphone made a huge difference. And I bought all kinds of microphones, and they were cheap, and they kind of crap out in the middle of the show. So go for a good microphone. That would be my best bit of advice.
Great. Oh. Perfect. Well, tell us a little bit about kind of how you decided what your schedule looked like. Is it important to stick with a specific schedule? What does that look like?
Well, podcasting experts, so to speak, would tell you that it is important. Okay. And I'm a very structured person, and I do firmly believe that if you want to be successful, it's no different than using your favorite facial serum, right? You have to use it consistently. You have to be consistent. But the podcast is one part of my professional life that I don't have a consistent schedule for. And first of all, certain times of year, it's hard to get a guest on your show because they're busy. And I don't think people know until they do the show the massive amount of brand exposure that they get from the show. I've had several people post-show tell me this was the best advertising I've ever done. And it's free. And it's a lifelong bit of advertising. It sits on iTunes and several other platforms. So I kind of think that a quality interview or a quality message is way more important than the quantity of it. So I do it when I see a trend, when I have a specific message, when I get triggered by something in this industry that irritates me, or, I try to do 5 or 6 or 7 at a time and be as consistent as I can. But if I have to miss a show, then I'm not going to let it throw me over the edge.
Okay, cool. That's good.
Yeah.
And now you mentioned guest speakers, which just made me think, in general, how far in advance do you plan your regular content? But then if you have a guest speaker, I mean, does that make a difference, or how does that kind of factor into your planning out what your podcasts are going to be and what they're going to contain?
I'll try to do like 3 or 4 interviews in a day for a few weeks.
Wow.
And then I'll throw them into, Dropbox, and then we'll roll them out. So it is consistent when I'm doing it. Scheduling people, like I said, it has been probably the biggest challenge for the show. And then when they're on, they call me and go, can I do it again? Can I do it again? Can I do it again? So anyone listening that wants great brand exposure and has a cool message to share, please let me know. I'm people to interview this season.
Are people nervous about coming on, or what do you think the apprehension is?
I think they're nervous about coming on, and they'll say to me, what are your questions, Lori? I don't have any, because I really want it to sound very authentic and be a genuine type. I'm intellectually curious, and I want to pick their brain. And if I know too much beforehand, it feels very rehearsed and scripted, and I don't want that at all. So I think they're nervous because I don't give them a list of questions that I'm going to ask them. And the thing is, it's produced. It goes to my producer. We can edit it. We'll make it sound pro. And after the show, this is the funniest thing that was surprising to me that continues to happen. I'll stop recording, and then they'll tell me the best story ever. And I'll be like, why didn't you say that when we were recording? People get nervous.
Very cool. Is there any guest that you can think of just off the top of your mind that was a delightful surprise that you weren't really super excited about, but turned out that it was amazing and really shared great information?
Well, I'm super excited about everyone who gives me the opportunity to interview them. But there have been a few where Dr. Murad, like his PR company, called me, and I got him on the show, and he was such a lovely human being. And I think we forget there's an actual human who cares behind these brands. When you see him on TV or all over in Sephora, and I really had fun chatting with him. And he promised certain things throughout the show. I want to send you a book. I want to send you these products, and could not believe it. They were at my door like 3 days later. A lot of people, we get chatting and they'll forget at the end of the show, but he was just lovely. He's iconic in our industry, I believe. And it was really nice to have a conversation with him. Some of my favorite interviews, though, really are other practitioners who have started with nothing and have built these beautiful businesses, because I think that inspires others to do the same. And many of these girls, I've been on the journey with them. I started, coaching them when they were making $10,000 a year, and now they have these $500,000 brands. And I love it when they'll just open up and share really what the journey was like to inspire and motivate other people that maybe just entering the industry or feeling frustrated and are being told by their families to go get a real job. So those are some of my
favorites. I think that would be so amazing to be talking to so many different estheticians and seeing that journey. That's great.
And that's so cool too.
Yeah.
And I liked Julie Nostrums. I'm not quite sure if I'm saying her last name. I think it's Nostrums. She was the founder of South Seas Tanning, because spray tanning in Los Angeles is what differentiated me and helped me kind of claim the title. I was given this title by a major infomercial company as a celebrity esthetician, but it was spray tanning that got all of these people in there. So I had fun talking to her about something that had contributed to my success and how she started the brand. That was one of my favorite episodes. And she's lovely. I mean, you think somebody's going to be different than they are when oh my gosh, what's his name? The guy that does Kelly and Ryan Seacrest. When Ryan Seacrest calls you the Da Vinci of spray tanning, that's the title Julie has. And to get her on the show, and she was so human and nice and shared her story, the good and bad parts of it, I really liked that episode.
I love that. That's so cool. And I love just the diversity. It's not just, estheticians doing facials and treatments like that, but you're branching out further. I love that.
I will tell you, I am changing it up this year. And my whole life have really loved hearing these stories that make me feel grateful for my life. And I've had so many of those clients that are either in a wheelchair, and we don't know how to market to these people as estheticians. So, and I have some celebrities that have been ridiculed about their beauty since they were 10, 11, 13 years old. And these people are coming on this season to share some in this upcoming season. And not all of them are in the beauty industry, but they are women who are living a beautiful life, empowering through challenges. So that's something that I'm excited to share in 2019.
That sounds so exciting. I love that. Just really changing it up, and we can all use extra inspiration any place we can find it. So that's cool.
Yes.
I'm so excited to hear that. So now for the regular esthetician, I mean, how would being a guest or even a producer, if they decided to do their own podcast, how would that help build their own business?
Well, I'm teaching this right now. I have an upcoming training that I've been working on for the last few weeks. And there's something that many of us are not paying attention to, and we need to get brand exposure, and that is influencers. And I consider people that have a voice, such as a podcast or a blog, to be an influencer. So it really does a few things for your business. It'll get you brand exposure. Again, this is kind of unlimited brand exposure because they usually will sit online forever. Also, that person is going to share with you their entire list, your story, and you will share the episode. If you're brand and marketing savvy, you'll share it so your clients start to view you as an expert in a certain portal, a certain type of industry. So I think it works in several different ways to grow your list. Also, it has helped me create this amazing Rolodex to network with. The people that I've had on my shows, I can call them and say, hey, could you blah, 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 and help me do this for the industry? And it's always a yes. So it helps networking, it helps brand exposure, it helps with your marketing, and it helps position you as an expert. And positioning really is, in this day and age, what your clients are going to purchase from you, like your first impression, and if you look like you got it together in your business.
Wow. Now, do you have any advice for estheticians who want to become a guest on the podcast or on any podcast? I mean, for you yourself, do you seek out people to be guests and kind of interact with them directly, or do you actually take proposals from people?
I take proposals. I have a lot of PR reps and PR agencies now that are sending me people that they think would be a good fit for my show. I've gotten a lot of great ideas and connections on who to have on the show just from other estheticians. And people who have been on the show will say, you should interview my friend, blah, blah, blah. Let me connect you with that person. I also, I'm in this networking group with a bunch of women, and two of them are podcasting connectors. So they actually, this is their business. It's called Internet Connection, and you pay them a monthly fee and they'll get you a spot on a podcast that's relevant to your brand or relevant to your marketing. And, I asked them, I was just with them last week. I said, what is the one thing somebody could do to get on a podcast quickly? And they said, and I love this, you can have a one sheet with your headshot, your bios, what your brand is about, and maybe 4 or 5 questions you would like the host to ask you. I had Petra Koldler on, who is big in the fitness world. And she sent me these beautiful questions. And she said, it'd be great if you could ask me these questions. And that helped the interview flow. And so one sheet, I would say, if you want to be on, and look for people in your area. Podcasts are the new email marketing, right? They're popping up everywhere. So people want to hear our voice. They want to hear our stories. So I would look for these micro influencers in your community and throw them a one sheet and see what happens.
I love it. And I have to say, I'm such a, you know this, I'm such a huge podcast fan. I can't even remember the last time I listened to the radio. Like, you know, I listen to a podcast everywhere I go, even when I'm at the gym. Like, love podcasts, obsessed. So keep on doing it, Lori.
Thank you. You know, I spent the last 10 years of my life having a business in Palm Springs and a business in Los Angeles. And I literally drove what was supposed to be a 2-hour drive, but it would end up sometimes being 5 hours twice a week. That is the only thing I miss from my drive is listening to podcasts, because now I'm full-time in Palm Springs.
So, and how long have you been doing your podcast for again?
That's a good question. I think I'm a little over the 100th episode, and I couldn't even tell you the year I started. I don't know. Maybe it was 2 or 3 years ago that I started doing it. Again, it's a passion project. So I give it my love, and I don't do a lot of, I don't know, crazy analytics or business stuff around it. So
great.
Now,
I don't know. What else we have? We got more questions, I'm sure.
So previously we had kind of talked about some people that you have had on your show who kind of surprised you with these amazing stories. Now, do you have any other kind of guests who just have really incredible stories? Like what kind of story is the most captivating to be shared on a podcast or on your podcast?
Or even an upcoming one too. Yeah. I mean, something that you want to kind of tease out to us and give us a little
Well, I'd love to. So I have a celebrity client who is in a massive movie right now. And she's in her 20s, and she's been coming to me for her skincare since she's actually close to 30. She's been coming to me since she turned 20, I think. And she sent me a text the other night, and she said, can you believe this? Some guy, she posted a picture, she was going on TV, to extra TV to be interviewed, and some guy goes, wow, you look like you're probably almost 40. Do you drink too much? And
oh my gosh.
So we're going to talk about internet bashing. I think people are really brave and rude behind their keyboard, and I don't think anyone has a right to say something like that to another person and make a woman feel like crap about herself. So that, you know, we're going to talk about how she's been on TV since she was 13, how she's dealt with this kind of stuff and still had the confidence to feel beautiful and put herself out there in front of, you know, massive amounts of people. I have a client who was in a boating accident at 30 years old and is paralyzed and in a wheelchair and has run 3 or 4 businesses. Can't wait, because hearing how she gets treated and how people aren't marketing to her, or even like she's willing to share what to do when she does come into your spot and make it a really nice service for her. I think that's important, and we don't think about that very often. It's a whole market maybe we're missing out on. And then I have another client who got in a car accident, and slowly her body started to be paralyzed. And she tells a story of what she did, how she wrapped her mind around living that kind of life, and what she did to get mobile again. And it's pretty incredible. So I don't know what this season's going to hold, but I just am fascinated with powerful women right now that are doing things to inspire other women. So that's what it's going to be about.
That is awesome. I'm super excited.
Yeah,
everybody stay tuned, and we'll have to maybe check back in with Lori and get a little bit more from her as the year goes on, for sure.
I love it. Thank you. And for anyone listening out there, you better have your membership in ASCP and your insurance. I can't believe there's a lot of people out there that don't understand the importance of liability insurance. You guys make it affordable. You make it easy. And if you don't have it, you're being silly. So this is a shout out to ASCP.
We totally agree with you 100%. So join, if you haven't joined, better hurry up and join.
Yes.
Says so.
Now, Lori, before we kind of wrap up, do you have any other last minute pro tips for estheticians who are wanting to kind of take their first steps into this whole podcast world that we didn't touch on earlier?
I would say go for it. It's going to feel weird the first few times that you do it. We're used to being in a small, dark treatment room talking to one person. And when you have to stare at yourself in your computer into a microphone for an hour, it feels weird at first. probably the best way that I prep, and I still do this before every single show, is I do my show outline and show notes, which I have here even that you guys sent to me. So, don't be paralyzed by perfection. Your first few shows may be awful, but that's okay. Practice makes perfect. I would say go for it. If you have a message that you want to share, put it out there. And I think what I'm discovering is that YouTube's a really good place for exposure, even for your podcast, but there are certain rules and regs you may want to Google to see how you get the most exposure on YouTube. But that's something we're looking into. We're going to get my episodes, past, present, future, all lined up on the YouTube channel. So I would say give that a try too, because YouTube's where it's at right now as far as, videos. More people are watching YouTube than TV nowadays, I think, than cable TV.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't think regular TV gets much exposure anymore at all. I think it's all like, Netflix and YouTube for sure. Yeah.
I feel so ignorant sometimes. My clients will come in and start talking about stuff. That's where I get my current events from my clients. I don't watch TV anymore.
It's true. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciated you coming on our little show, I guess. And we're excited to share all your great information with all of our ASCP members. So thanks, Lori.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.